Maybe look at some futures in the NBA as we saw the league open last night with 2 games. 76ers tonight. Big story is obviously what's going on with Joel Embiid and Paul George. My first memory in life was the 80 World Series and Bob Boone, Pete Rose. I talked about it when Pete Rose died. It's probably my first memory in life was Pete Rose snatching the ball from Bob Boone as he bobbled it in the 9th inning of the World Series. But my first team that I loved, and I loved sports from an early age. I remember the Eagles in the Super Bowl, but the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers I was old enough to really start to appreciate it. Dr. J, I mean, you talk about an iconic Philadelphia sports figure, really an iconic NBA figure. Moses Malone. I mean, all the Andrew Toney. I loved Andrew Toney. Maurice Cheeks is probably my favorite Philadelphia athlete of all time. I grew up when I was a young kid with some really, really good 76ers teams. And then Doc got old. Charles came in and was an excellent player, but they never really had success. They never even made it to an Eastern Conference Finals with Charles Barkley. He got traded. They're bad for a long time. And then AI gets drafted. They had the run with AI, made the finals. But if you think about this, the Sixers in 40 years has been to 1 Eastern Conference final. One NBA final, 1 Eastern Conference final. And now you get Joel Embiid. And it's like, oh my God, Ben Simmons, the process. It's what bothers me the most out of everything that happened yesterday. So it comes down to Paul George is going to be out of the lineup. He's not ready to start the season, which everybody pretty much knew. It was just confirmed. He hyperextended the knee. We saw it. It's not good. It's fine. He doesn't have to start the season. He's injured. We don't need to rush it. Joel Embiid, though, because the Sixers had been pretty innocuous about everything, I wasn't sure if he was going to start the season because I'd really received no information on him. I had no reason not to believe he was going to start the season, but still, there was this weird thing where they were beating around the bush with Joel Embiid. So how are we supposed to feel? Joel Embiid's not playing in the opener. And more on that in a second. How is a 76er at this point supposed to feel? After the 76ers give you no transparency, give you no real reason or rhyme to what's going on with Joel Embiid. He played in the Olympics. He came back from the Olympics. They had training camp, which is supposed to be the ramp up. And then they say at the very last minute, the day before the opener, oh yeah, he's not going to play. Which Joel Embiid doesn't need to play game 1. He doesn't need to. If he's injured, which he's injured, he doesn't need to play. It's not about this. It's about the transparency and the fatigue that a lot of 76ers fans have with this franchise right now. Joel Embiid wanted to play in the Olympics. I'm not mad at Joel Embiid if indeed he played in the Olympics and his knee didn't respond, which, let's be honest, we can beat around the bush and we can say, oh, well, maybe this happened, maybe that happened. And it's pretty clear that he played in the Olympics. It's earlier than he normally would play, and his knee hasn't responded since he got back from the Olympics. Did he not train when he came back from the Olympics? Did he get fat or put on weight since he got back from the Olympics? I don't know anything about that. All I know is that he's not ready to play and start the regular season. And the best reasoning or the best idea is that his body and knee didn't respond after playing the Olympics. He's not ready to go to start the season. I'm not mad at Joel Embiid for wanting to play in the Olympics. He wanted to play for the United States in the Olympics. Now, am I thrilled that he's not healthy to start the season, probably from playing in the Olympics? No, I'm not thrilled about it, but I also need to move past it. I don't think he can do it again. You can't, after last time, not being ready to start the season. I don't think he can do it again, not with the condition his body is in, not with the condition his knee is in. He said just 2 weeks ago or so that he's probably never going to play in back-to-backs again in his career. Well, if that's the case, then you can't play in the Olympics, or it can't affect you starting the regular season. In the grand scheme of things, Joel Embiid not starting the season because of an injury isn't something that we shouldn't expect at this point, right? But it's the communication by the 76ers that really makes me more angry than anything else. And Sixers fans should feel incredibly frustrated right now that he's injured again and that health is always going to be a thing with Joel Embiid. It's going to be a thing. When he says that he's not playing back-to-backs, he says that for good reason. His body isn't set up to do that. Maybe he shouldn't have said it. Maybe it looks a lot worse than actually the facts, which are he's not going to be able to do it likely. But what's frustrating is the 76ers behavior. I was thinking about it. I'm like, how are the 76ers acting? Because if he's not ready to come back after the Olympics and they're not saying anything about it, and then at the last second they say, oh, yeah, well, he's not ready, and then they have no real explanation. Here's actually our own Kyle Neubeck, PHLY Sixers. So it comes down, he's not playing. Nick Nurse has a press conference. What's the explanation for it? Listen to Kyle Neubeck asking the tough questions, and Nick Nurse has no answer. Not quite ready from what? Am I missing something? He didn't play in the preseason. Training camp's supposed to ramp you up. But what am I missing here? What we're missing is obvious, that he didn't respond well to the Olympics. He's not ready to go. It's like when I have something that I need to tell my wife, but I'm not necessarily telling her until I feel like that I need to say it because I don't feel like arguing, or I don't feel like being mad at, or I don't feel like hearing crap. You know what I mean? So let's say that I have a business trip. It's like, hey, Marks, you and Philly are going to Vegas for the Summer League for the Sixers. Or hey, you're going to Phoenix for the Super Bowl, and you're going to be gone for the week, and your wife's going to have the kids all the days, right? So you wait and you wait and you wait. And you're like, all right, I'll tell her Friday night after dinner. Going out to dinner, have a nice dinner, I'll tell her afterwards. And then dinner's nice, and you're feeling lucky, so you don't want to ruin that opportunity. So I'll tell her tomorrow. I'll tell her the following week. And before you know it, now you really have to tell her. And she's pissed because you waited to the last minute, and you could have done it 3 or 4 weeks before that. That's what the 76ers did. They were hoping that Embiid would be okay, to where they didn't or wouldn't have to say, oh, man, like he tweaked something in the Olympics, or his knee hasn't responded well since coming back. All they had to do was be transparent and honest. I'm not going to be mad at the 76ers because Embiid played in the Olympics and he came back. They're going to catch crap. It's shrapnel. That's what you're in business to do in Philadelphia. You don't get we give the benefit of the doubt because they've won championships, or look what the Eagles have done, 2 Super Bowls in 6 years, or the Phillies. Right? You don't get that benefit of the doubt. And it sucks for the 76ers. That's what happens when you win one, or you go to one Eastern Conference final in 40 years. That's what happens when you have to put 76ers fans through the process where they're intentionally losing. That's what happens when they haven't been past the second round of the playoffs. That's what happens when you have Doc Rivers, who didn't care what fans have been through for the last 40 years. That's what happens when you have the attitude of Daryl Morey, who doesn't care what the fans have been through the last 40 years. He wasn't there for that. That's not his fault. There's just very tone deaf from the 76ers organization, which I have no problem with Josh Harris. I think the 76ers are well run from a business standpoint. They have a ton of talent on this team. Unfortunately, their best player and their superstar can't stay healthy and has bad knees and is always injured. So it's frustrating for 76ers fans. Just be transparent. Don't throw this at us the last minute, even though we've come to expect it. So it's very frustrating as a 76er fan. All right, we'll move on to some headlines. JP and the place to be, you know him from the Anthony Gargano show and the Union podcasts and everything else. He's going to be with us here for the next week and a half. Tyler's off for the remaining of this week. What's up, JP?
What's up, Johnny?
I know it hit you yesterday. I knew it hit you yesterday as well, like every other 76er fan, because you're looking forward to the opener.
Yeah.
We know Paul George isn't likely to play, but still,
of course,
right? The Bucks. Big game. Oh, Embiid. But and last second, we're on a need-to-know basis, and the 76ers determine when we need to know, and we didn't need to know to the very last minute.
Yeah, I think what's frustrating for me is like, look, I mean, we dealt with Joel Embiid for almost a decade now, right? Like, we know what is Joel Embiid. We know he's always going to never be fully 100% healthy. And like, I'm not necessarily upset the fact that he's missing the first game. You know, we'll see how much more that he does miss. But it's like, you know, I think that clip with Kyle Neubeck, I mean, he said it all. It felt like the Sixers were not prepared for this. And that's what's upsetting here is like, how are you not prepared for this? Look, I'm with you. Can't be mad at the fact that he wanted to represent and play in the Olympics. That's something we can't be. And by the way, John, this city lauded Joel Embiid for doing that. They love the fact that he was out there playing with Team USA, playing with the stars that were on Team USA. So now we can't just take our thoughts back. Like, we were all happy at that time. It's just unfortunate that, you know, Joel Embiid, this is kind of what Joel Embiid is. He's obviously one of the best players of our generation, but can't stay healthy. It's been his MO, man.
We shouldn't be surprised. And we shouldn't be surprised in the way that the 76ers are communicating with us.
We all silly like the mayor.